Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR. That's Zach. We are presented and brought to you by FanDuel. Appreciate you being here as we do have Miami's win to talk about over Ole Miss. Yes, Miami gets the win over Ole Miss in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl, and they are heading to the national championship to face either Oregon or Indiana. We're going to talk through Miami's win. What did we see? What did we like? What did we not like? Get through that stuff, and then we'll talk about who do we think matches up better against Miami? Who would have a better chance here? Not who do we think is going to win the game, but who would have a better chance against Miami? It's going to be a very interesting discussion. And then finally, Husan Longstreet has entered into the portal after many rumors about him possibly going in. And Damon Williams has decided to come back from the portal. All that crazy stuff to talk about. We're going to get to it, but we got Zach Guggenheim with us here once again to talk about it all. Zach, did you enjoy your wings at B-Dubs?
I did. I think I am more excited, though, that Paul Finebaum will be saying goodbye to the great country of America and going somewhere elsewhere.
He did just say he would leave. He didn't say he would leave for good, did he? I don't think you said he would leave for good.
Are you saying that we chose to interpret and craft a narrative based on just one thing that we heard? Is that what you're saying? That we made something up?
I would like for Paul Finebaum to leave altogether, but I'm sure he's gonna come back. Well, I just said leave, so I just stepped into Canada. Now I'm coming back. Actually, probably Mexico since he's down there in the south. Stepped into Mexico and came right back.
You're just saying that because we have failed to bring back the Paul Finebaum are you leaving the country tracker?
Well, I had too many graphics to make tonight, so yes, I did not get the chance to make that one and bring that one back. So that will have to come back another night.
That's fair.
Because it has to be updated every time. But
yeah, I was with a friend at B-Dubs who did not want Miami to win. And I said, but look at it this way. The SEC will be eliminated if Miami wins, which means Paul Finebaum has to leave the country. And his response was, I don't even know who that is, but that sounds hilarious.
Well, and also, too, the SEC did not win a single game in the playoffs against a Power 4 team that's not from their own conference. So, they got 2 wins in the playoffs or 3 wins in the playoffs, and all 3 was either against a G6 team or against another SEC team. So, not saying it's the end all be all, but not great if you're an SEC fan.
Nope.
So let's see who we got here with us. Blueverine coming in. Eyeball emoji. I assume that means that it's because Quincy Porter is thought to be going to Michigan for an official visit. So, we kind of talked about it when we talked about Porter. At least I think I did. I was on by myself for that one, and I said he might just go to Michigan because he was very close to that one. They kind of were running second or third in that race anyway. So I would not be surprised at all if Quincy Porter makes his way on over to Michigan. Former Ohio State wide receiver. JR Jr.'s with us, says RIP SEC. Love it. A lot of people bringing up the Finebaum like you are. Max, Phillip, bringing up the Finebaum. So interesting stuff there. Hummus Hero back with us once again. The bracket virtually ensured an SEC team in the semis. It did. And they still couldn't get in there because they couldn't beat a single team that is not a G6 team or outside of their conference. Oh, man. All right, let's talk about this game here, Zach. Let me bring up my graphic and then we'll make it happen. Miami wins over Ole Miss 31-27. Carson Beck comes down the field with a game-winning drive. Let's start there, Zach. Listen, I want to give Miami all the credit in the world. They got the win. Yes, good job. Carson Beck, excellent performance, especially picking up the first downs with his legs. Everything people have been saying about Carson Beck and how his legs have really helped impact Miami very well. That is all true. I also want to say how terrible the play calling was by Shannon Dawson on that final drive there. I know you've not been too impressed with Shannon Dawson, so maybe that's where we need to start, or maybe we need to give credit to Miami first. I'm not sure. Where would you like to start with all of this, Zach?
I think we should start with credit because Miami has now beat the number 7, number 2, and number 6 seeds to make it to the national championship game. Did I say that right? 7, 2, 6. Yeah. They've beaten 3 top 7 teams. You know, we may argue whether those teams should have been ranked there, but the fact is they beat 3 playoff caliber teams to get to a national championship game that's now going to be in their backyard. And a lot of it is because Carson Beck, who was much maligned, even by us, or at least by me, coming into this tournament, he has played as a leader. You know, he has not always been great, but he has made the right play at the right time. And I think his game-winning touchdown signifies that, right? Nothing's open. So what does he do? He finds open space, and he, a fairly limited mobile quarterback, makes a mobile quarterback play and gets a touchdown. So I think that there's a lot of credit there. I think, like, I thought Miami outplayed Ole Miss and was the better team. And yet Ole Miss, because Trinidad Chambliss is a dog, which, by the way, he deserves a ton of credit. Pete Golding deserves a lot of credit for Ole Miss to do as well as they did. But, you know, Ole Miss didn't go away, and they made some plays, and Miami, to their credit, they responded twice in the fourth quarter. And so I just give Miami a ton of credit for their resiliency. Malachi Toney had a big game. Mark Fletcher had a big game. And they had a big game even when their defense did not have a big game. So I think it's a huge win for them, especially to kind of quell some of the momentum that Ole Miss had, not just from this game, but, you know, Ole Miss beat Georgia. And I know, like, I don't think Georgia is Georgia of old, but there is something about beating like that helmet that really does bolster you. And so the fact that they took on a team that was coming in with red hot momentum, I think is a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that Ole Miss did a really good job of exposing parts of Miami in this game. They utilized tempo really well, even when they weren't getting first downs early on. They went 3 and out in the very first two, the very first 2 drives there. And Miami, you know, they didn't get out to a 14 or nothing lead here, but it was kind of like the Ohio State game, right? They had that big long pass play. They scored in 2 plays to get their first touchdown there, and then that's kind of what got their offense going. And I do think it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if Ohio State made that happen, because it seemed like Ole Miss was able to kind of do that. But it did seem like Miami's secondary kind of, you know, had the big plays put on them a lot in this one. And not just the secondary, but the front 7. Quan Lacey, he had a big run in this one as well. Ole Miss had all kinds of big plays, but when it came down to really stopping Ole Miss and not letting them get into the end zone, Miami excelled at that. Ole Miss had to settle for field goals in multiple instances. They were the kings of big plays in this game, but they just were not able to consistently get the ball down the field and into the end zone every time. Like, obviously they did it, that 14, I think it was 14 play, like 86-yard drive, but even that one was a field goal. So, you know, they were just so reliant on big plays in this one, and Miami did a great job of, when they got into the red zone, really toughening up and not letting Ole Miss, kind of break them there. So I feel like, you know, I mean, we'll get to the comparison a little bit later on, but I do feel like Miami, very good team, did a lot of things really well, but also I'm not sure I want to be in a situation where I want Carson Beck to have to win the game with his feet consistently.
Well, and I think maybe that brings us to the criticism that you were alluding to. Shannon Dawson has been fairly average to below average as a play caller in all 3 playoff games. Like, I have not been impressed. And that's not to say that other guys haven't or have been worse, right? Like, I think you can really call out Ryan Day. I think Ryan Day got outcoached in that Ohio State Miami game. That doesn't mean that Shannon Dawson was good. And I think that is my concern, is I felt like Miami scored 31 in spite of Shannon Dawson, not because of him. Which I don't know how to take that, because on one hand, Miami has some really good pieces, and they played really well. Those players played really well tonight. But multiple times as I was watching this game, I'm like, why are you taking the ball out of Mark Fletcher's hands and Shamar Brown's hands and Malachi Tony's hands and trusting the passing game? What are you doing? Run the dang football. And they just kept like the flea flicker play. That's a microcosm of what this game felt like for me. Is they're just driving, and there's like, you know what we should do? We should call a flea flicker because we'll be able to get a big play. And instead, it's a intentional grounding. And you're like, dude, granted, if it works, everybody's calling him a genius. But here's the thing: they didn't need to do it.
It was a little Andy Kotelnicki-esque, wasn't it?
Yes. Well, that's what I said after the Texas A&M game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Miami, to their credit, they were excellent on third down in this game, 11 of 19, and that was kind of what just continued to happen time and time again. It really kind of, I don't want to say I felt bad for Ole Miss's defense because obviously you stop it if you really want to stop it, but they just could not get off the field, and Miami was able to stay on the field consistently and just keep the ball rolling down the field. And Ole Miss continued to kind of have to put their defense in a bad position because of how many big plays they needed and stuff, and they just were not able to stay on the field nearly as much. I'm trying to find the time of possession. I just had it here, and I want
41-22 to 18-38.
Yeah, so
which is
I mean,
insane, by the way.
It is, but that was the only way that Ole Miss was able to score, right? Was getting those big plays and moving down the field that way. They just were not able to methodically move the ball down the field because Miami does do such a good job of winning old school football, win the line of scrimmage. I think Chris was just in here saying that, so I want to give him credit. Yeah, Miami wins the old school way, tough D, win the line of scrimmage, and pound the rock. And really, when they stick to that, they are a very good football team, but they have to get away from that sometimes, because Shannon Dawson is Shannon Dawson, but also the offensive line and some of the penalties that Miami had in this one, which to me were just absolutely inexcusable.
Yep.
So, I mean, what did you think of the penalties? Like, is that something we need to have a big takeaway for?
I don't know, because I thought the targeting call was crap. But
yeah. I mean, that's targeting in 2026, yeah.
Although there's implications there because Lucas is out for the first half of next game. I thought the late hit, like, it was dumb, but there's sloppy.
You're talking about the QB late hit, like the clothesline thing?
No. I'm talking about like late in the fourth quarter.
Okay, that one. Okay.
Like that one.
There were too many for us to know.
Yeah, but like that one felt kind of like it was a late hit, but I was like, I didn't think it was nearly as egregious as Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit made it seem. So is it concerning that they had 10 penalties to Ole Miss's 4? Yes. I don't know if I would say I'm that concerned, because I don't think that's been a trend. At least it wasn't in the Ohio State game. I'd be curious to see them their statistical profile with that. But in fact, let me look that up real quick. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Miami just continued to put themselves in tough situations with some of their penalties. I mean, they didn't have the most penalties in the world. It was, I'd say, only 10. I've seen a lot more before, but still, 10 is something that impacts you. 10 penalties for 74 yards in this game, and it did kind of throw them off of their third down situations. But, to Miami's credit, like, Carson Beck almost picked up a 3rd and 13 with his legs. So whichever team, Oregon or Indiana, faces this team, you're going to have to allocate a spy on Carson Beck now, at least on third down, because he has shown he will get out there and he will use his legs. He's not the fastest dude in the world, but he's quick enough to be able to get to the first down marker.
Yep. Just, it looks like, I don't know how recent this is. They are near the bottom in penalty yards and most penalties in FBS.
Like they commit the most penalties?
Yeah, they commit the most penalties. Let me just make sure I'm reading this right.
Where are you looking at?
Well, I was looking at AI, which may not be the right.
No, go to CFP. I'll go there really fast.
Okay.
Miami is 78th in the country in penalty yards per game, 55.9. They average um, they average 6.8 penalties per game.
Okay. So not nearly as bad as AI is telling me.
Yeah, it's still 95th in the country. That's not good.
Yeah, no. So it is, and we're going to talk about it in a minute. There is a issue there with who they're going to play next, because you're talking about a couple of teams that don't get penalized a lot.
Mm-hmm. I think I'll say the last thing on Miami here, and then we'll get into the comparison kind of stuff. I feel about Miami the way you felt about Alabama, which is if Miami plays to the best of who they can possibly be, I think they could be the best team in the country.
I agree. I very much agree.
Yeah. Fisherman said Miami had 0 against Ohio State. Man, that's just Ohio State's luck.
Yeah, that
penalties called on the other team. It's crazy.
But to that point, and this has been true about Cristobal in his tenure, both at Oregon and at Miami. He plays up against the best teams, and he plays down to the teams. Like that explains a lot of Louisville and SMU, right? They play down to their I would argue it actually plays into what we saw tonight against Ole Miss, because I did not come away overall impressed by Ole Miss. I think Miami played down to them a little bit tonight.
I was impressed every time Ole Miss sent their tight end on a post route to the outside, because it seemed like that was open every single time.
Right. I'm not sure if that was Ole Miss being good or Miami being bad. It was probably a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we see Miami against, well, and people mentioned it, dropped interceptions, a lot of drop passes. I think when Miami plays either Oregon or Indiana, I think you will get the best version of Miami, and that is dangerous.
Well, we're going to talk Oregon, Indiana against Miami here in just a second. Before we do that, please do like, subscribe if you're listening on podcast. 5-star rating and review definitely helps us out as well. We'll be right back. And we're back. Oh, there we go. And we're back talking Miami and versus Oregon or versus Indiana. Now, the look-ahead lines that FanDuel had set had Indiana as a 5.5-point favorite over Miami, and had Oregon as a 2.5-point favorite over Miami. Those look-ahead lines are no longer there. Obviously, they're waiting until see what happens against Indiana, Oregon at this point, or maybe it was just right after the game and they didn't have it up then. But both Big Ten teams will be favored over Miami, according to FanDuel, as of before the game. Maybe the game makes things change. However, the question here, Zach, is which Big Ten team do you think matches up better against Miami? Miami, we just kind of described them a little bit. Hard-nosed football team, win the line of scrimmage. Kind of bully ball type of stuff. They win on third down, ball control type of team. I mean, between Oregon and Indiana, which of these two teams do you think is set up better to go against Miami in the national championship? Not which team do you think will win, we've already talked about that, but which team do you think is set up better to beat Miami in the national championship?
Oh man. I'll just start by saying I think those lines are actually too high for both. I'd probably go pick them in -3. Or -1 and -3. I don't think it's. I
they
don't
could
think,
change. They could change, right?
But I think they're too high. My gut says Indiana, just because I think they're the more composed team. But I think the one danger for Indiana is, what if they get in there and Miami can do what they did to Ohio State, which is there's a significant advantage on the lines. Indiana is trying to win with efficiency, which is exactly how Ohio State wants to win. And Miami just out efficiencies you because they're better on the lines. Now, I'm not saying that they are definitively better, but I think there is a question there that you have to consider. On the flip side, I think Oregon could be a little like Ole Miss in the fact that they are explosive everywhere. But I have a hard time seeing Oregon being able to be as consistent as Ole Miss was in big plays just because they haven't been. So that would be I would probably go Indiana, but I don't I think both could have issues with Miami for sure. But I think Indiana would be the better matchup for the Big Ten than Oregon would.
Well, and I do think that you can scheme around some of the stuff that Oregon does, right? We saw it a little bit with Ole Miss today, and Ole Miss's issue was they could scheme up the big plays against Miami, but they had a really hard time scheming up the efficient move the ball down the field. You talked about how Indiana is so efficient that could hurt them. I actually feel like Indiana is so efficient that it could hurt Miami. Like, yes, Miami's
Yeah. It's both
defensive
ways.
line. Right, it could be both ways. Their defensive line and everything could get after Indiana, but I also think that Indiana, they just always know the exact time to call that quarterback draw for Fernando Mendoza, and I really feel like in that game, like you could get Indiana in like a 2nd and 14 or something like that, and they would just know exactly when to call that QB draw, and Mesidor and Bain would pin their ears back and get going after Fernando Mendoza, and Mendoza would be able to pick up the first down or at least get close to picking up the first down. I also feel like I'm more confident in Indiana's running game right now. Noah Whittington is questionable right now. I think it was Fisherman that said he has the flu, or somebody else did. I apologize if I'm not giving credit accurately there, but there are concerns about this Oregon running game, and I do think you have got to be able to run the ball in order to beat Miami. And I know some people give Indiana's offensive line some hard times and stuff, but they handled Alabama well. We'll see if they can handle Oregon well in this one. But regardless, they've shown to be a good run blocking team this season. Even in the games where people say they did not run the ball very well, they still average or sack adjusted yards. They still ran for over 100 yards in every single game this season.
Yeah, I was gonna say one other thing. I do think both Oregon and Indiana are better running teams than Ole Miss. And they're both better running teams than Ohio State. And I just think I do think that whoever plays Miami, they're going to be the most complete team that they faced. Offense, defense, special teams. And I do think that will be interesting to see how Miami does against, right? Like they're probably playing more complete teams, which I know is what we said about Ohio State. But I think looking back, I think they were more a product of the schedule. Indiana's played a legit schedule. Oregon's
Oh yeah,
played a legit schedule at this point.
yeah.
And
I would say
I
Ohio
think
State played a legit schedule too. I don't subscribe to all that Ohio State schedule stuff. I think they played
well,
a really good schedule.
they played a good schedule. Here's what I mean. They didn't play teams until Indiana that could really expose their weaknesses. And I think Oregon and Indiana both have. And I think they've grown from it. And I think they're more complete. Yeah, Ole Miss wasn't complete. I do think too, like Miami's a bit banged up. So it's just interesting to see. One thing that line's also probably not baking in because it's technically a neutral site game. This is a Miami home game for the title. So
First team in college football playoff history to have a home game at their stadium, even though Georgia's played in the Atlanta like twice. I don't know if it was twice. I think they played against Alabama and Indianapolis. I think the other time they played at Georgia though. I think they played in
yeah,
Atlanta that other time.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I think that Indiana to me is the team that is clearly in a better situation here because I do think they
Yeah,
would have a
I
massive
agree.
coaching advantage here. I think that Oregon, if they had that big stable of running backs and Jordan Davison wasn't hurt and Jalen Lamar was still there and not in the transfer portal, I would feel more confident in them. I just don't know what the running game is going to look like. Now, if they come out
Yeah.
and run, if they beat Indiana and they run for 200 yards on them, all right, I change my tune real fast on that, but I don't see that happening with Noah Whittington being questionable. I feel like he's gonna play. I mean, I know the flu stinks, but even Mario Cristobal was talking about how they had guys who had the flu and all
Hmm.
this stuff. But overall, I think Indiana is the better matchup here, and I think if the line is 5.5, I see what you're saying on the lines being too big, but or yeah, too large, but I still think Indiana would cover that. Call me
I think it's
crazy.
possible. I mean, they probably, but you just said it, and I would agree. I think if Miami plays at their best, they're going to be a tough team to beat, regardless.
Yeah, and if they play at their best, they are have a very good chance of winning the national
Yeah,
championship, regardless of who
I
they play.
I do want to I want to respond to this real quick. I get that feels right, and I know that there's a stereotype around Miami that they don't have fans. Do you know how long they have been waiting for this? And I know Indiana fans have too, but they don't have to travel. I mean, that's the crazy thing about this. I disagree. I think Miami, like the comment is IU will still have at least 50% of Hard Rock full. I disagree. I think Miami is going to have, I, I would say at least 60-40 and probably around 70-30. That would be my guess.
I feel like it would be somewhere in the range of 60-40 to 50-50. I don't think Indiana would have less than 40% of that stadium full. I get what you're saying on it's a narrative of Miami fans and stuff like that, but I mean that stadium, even for big games, is not super full, and they're going to give an allotment to Indiana and everything else. I mean, heck, the Indiana fans are buying up the Oregon allotment for for this game coming up.
But but don't you think though that there might be like it might be tough for fans to like Rose Bowl, Peach Bowl, and then go back to Florida?
I mean, yeah, but your point about Miami, it's been so long. It's never been for Indiana. I mean, there are Indiana fans. Man, I live down here. Like there are Indiana fans saying, do like they do not have the Ohio State mentality last year. It's like, oh, I'll go to one. They have the mentality of like this may never happen again. Like, yes, we believe in Kirk
Yeah, that's
Smitty, but
fair.
this may never happen again. We have to go do all of this stuff. So I'm not necessarily saying that Indiana will be 60% full of the stadium. I tend to agree with you. I don't think it'll be over 50% for Indiana, but I would not be surprised if it is 50% Indiana in there and they're making a bunch of noise and making it difficult on Miami. I mean, that's a big stadium and yeah, Miami fans want it, but man, Indiana fans want it too.
That's fair.
So,
And to be fair too, the Mendoza family might just buy out half the stadium. So,
well, who knows? So, um, let's see. Ben asked if we discussed Noah Whittington being listed as questionable for tomorrow. I mean, we didn't make it a big topic. We've referenced it here and there. It concerns me. I
mhm.
like I said, I feel like he's gonna play. We've seen a lot of guys play through the flu. Maybe he's just got a really terrible situation, but you know, I, I feel like Noah Whittington plays. He might not be
Hmm.
100%, but it does concern me a lot.
Yeah. Well, and the
So
fact that he's not 100%, that's
yeah. So all right. We'll be right back. We're gonna come back and talk Husan Longstreet and how he's in the portal. So stay with us. We'll be right
mm,
back. Can I get the comment down? There we go.
mhm.
Husan Longstreet of USC, after long being rumored to be going into the transfer portal, has now gone into the transfer portal. Was looking like maybe he would stick around, but things kind of got more and more bleak as time went on, and now announced on Thursday night that Husan Longstreet has indeed, in fact, gone into the portal. On the bright side for Washington fans, Damon Williams is back. I don't know if we need to talk too much about that, but let's start with Husan Longstreet and him going into the transfer portal. Zach, did this surprise you that Husan Longstreet, backup quarterback for USC, is now in the transfer portal?
I forget. Jaden Mayava is coming back.
Yes, he's coming back.
Okay. That's right. He's a sophomore. Then no, I'm not surprised. I mean, he was a 5-star quarterback.
True sophomore, though. I mean, he was going to be a sophomore. It's not like he was going to be a junior or a senior or something.
Yeah, but I would not be surprised if he wants to have at least 2 years to start before he goes to the NFL.
I'm wondering what the market for him is going to be. There's talk of Oregon right now, but I don't know. Does Oregon really want to go with a first-time starting quarterback next season?
Probably not.
Sounds like if they bring him in, then they would bring him. I mean, this is just my thing. I've not read any insiders on this or anything, but if you're going to bring Husan Longstreet in, it seems like you would probably want to bring in another quarterback to kind of have him sit behind for a season, which I don't know. To me, it doesn't make any sense. Like, I get his brother transferred and all that other stuff going on, but for me, like, if I'm Husan Longstreet, I'm not doing this. Right? You see the way everything is going in college football right now. Age is such an important thing, and a lot of people are looking for a quarterback with a good amount of age. Now, who knows where Sam Levitt's going to go? It doesn't seem like anybody wants Sam Levitt, or maybe Sam Levitt doesn't want them. I don't know what's going on there. He's the number one player in the On3 transfer portal, and he's visited like 4 different schools, and nobody's signed him up. Maybe LSU will, now that Damon Williams has not worked out for him. But to me, like, I don't know where you're going to go that is a better situation for your future. Are you really going to go to a place that has a quarterback guru that you're going to start right away? I mean, maybe you start over Lincoln Keenholz at Louisville if you go there. You're not starting over Julian Sayin at Ohio State. Like, what are the other quarterback gurus in college football that don't have a quarterback right now? Lane Kiffin, I guess, doesn't. So maybe he goes to LSU. But even Oregon, like Will Stein's moving on. Oregon has a really good track record with quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But,
I think LSU, I'm not saying I don't want him to go to LSU, but I'll say this. Husan Longstreet to LSU makes a whole lot more sense than Damon Williams to LSU.
Well, just because of the way, like, why? Why does he make more sense?
Well, because Husan Longstreet probably would start at LSU. And like Lane Kiffin is an offensive mind. And like he gets a new start there. Whereas like Damon Williams, he was starting. And like I think a big part of this for Longstreet is that he was a sophomore next year, yes, but then he wouldn't get to start till his junior year.
Does he go with his brother, Kevin Longstreet, down to New Mexico? I mean, Jason Eck is down there. I apologize. I do not know the New Mexico starting quarterback situation for next season. But I would think if you're a group of 6 school, you are likely going to be given a shot to the 5-star number 4 quarterback in the country in the recruiting class guy. Not saying you're going to start him for sure, but I would think you give him a shot. I mean, does he follow his brother and go to New Mexico?
I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but I would guess that Longstreet probably is going to have more suitors and better suitors in New Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, if he goes to New Mexico, it's like, dude, why didn't you just stay?
Yep.
Why didn't you just stay with USC? I don't know. That's my whole thing. Like, I get he's not starting this year and everything, but
yeah, I'm not saying
there's a lot of buzz about Oregon. I don't get the Oregon buzz. I guess he goes to Oregon, he starts there, but man, if I'm an Oregon fan, it's worked out so well with Dante Moore being a junior this year and everything. I'd want to bring somebody else in and kind of have him sit for a year and learn the system. I personally would not like that idea if I was an Oregon fan.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't love any of these options. You know what else I don't love? the fact that the NCAA abdicated their responsibility to actually regulate the portal. But because they can't be adults, we have to talk about this.
Wow. Yes.
Sorry,
It all
you
comes back to the NCAA stinks. Yes.
yeah. Sorry, you're getting me at 12:26 a.m. on a Thursday night. So I'm a little
Well,
more loopy than normal.
this is the last thing I'll ask you, and then we'll end the show here. Damon Williams coming back for Washington. If you, yes, I totally agree. I'm glad he's coming back, but like, what are your feelings if you're a Washington player on that roster? Like what are you feeling about Damon Williams signing a contract 4 days later, going into the portal, and essentially 2 days later being like, "Whoop, sorry guys, that was my bad. I know you were all at a celebration of life for one of the students on campus, and you were all supporting her, and I was not there and let out the news, but coming back, here we are." Like, I don't get me wrong, I like Damon Williams. I think Damon Williams is a really good player, but I do think that he's gonna have to do quite a bit to earn back some of the trust of the team after this.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's leadership. Like this is part of leadership and learning how to be a better leader. I, I don't think I don't know if it's going to be as difficult though as maybe we think. Like these are 18 to 22-year-olds who are all dealing with the same reality. And I think it's admirable for a player to head out like say I'm going to head out the door and then to reconsider. And I mean, we don't know all the reasons. My guess is Washington offered him more money and that he also felt like he had to because of the contract. So like, yeah, I think there's certainly going to be some skepticism and cynicism here. But I think it really just depends on, is Damon Williams the type of leader that sits there and says, "Hey, I did not go about this the right way. That's my bad. Would you guys forgive me?" Or is he going to go in and be like, "Well, you guys do the same thing, so who cares?" And like I think that's gonna be what proves to whether he keeps the locker room or not. I would hope that he has the people in his corner to help him realize that being a good leader means, yeah, I didn't do this the best way. I apologize. Let's go to work.
Yeah, I mean, Max makes a good point. Like he has an entire off season to gain back trust, and hopefully the coaches put him in a position to do that. I agree, Max. I think that that's huge with the entire off season and everything else. If this happened like the spring portal or something, that might be a little bit different. But I also think that this is also a really good sign for college football, in my opinion, just like in general. I think that if this whole situation went through and Damon Williams, transferred to LSU and played there, that would be really, really bad, in my opinion, for college football. That would make the
Agreed.
entire time frame of the transfer portal complete, or the entire idea of a contract completely meaningless. Xavier Lucas has already kind of made it seem like the transfer portal is meaningless. So even with the transfer portal closed in the offseason, you're still going to be kind of like looking behind your back a little bit with some of these players to still be able to leave, because he showed that you don't have to enter in the transfer portal to leave. But overall, like, I do think that this is a win for college football, and coaches are probably looking at this situation with Washington and saying, thank you for retaining Damon Williams, because hopefully this will deter other student athletes who are, maybe in a situation where they sign a contract but get offered more money elsewhere and try to leave to do that. Because I think
Yep.
probably another reason with this was probably he realized how much of a battle this was going to be, and that he might honestly not play next season, and that would have hurt
Mhm.
his ability to go to the NFL.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because if you're a running quarterback, a small guy like Damon Williams, you want to try to get to the NFL as quickly as you can with your draft stock, because you don't want to take a hit that you know really sets you up poorly. So,
Yeah. No, I agree.
all right. Well, we'll end the show there. Appreciate everybody being here. Zach, appreciate you coming on with us here. We will be back tomorrow night after the Indiana-Oregon game. Come check it out as we recap that game, talk through it all, and we will see you next time here on the Big Ten Huddle. Have a good one. Bye.